I was looking at, I knew that Yorgos wanted something that was, he didn't want a period drama, I knew that. He didn't want a sci-fi film that looked obviously like a sci-fi film, and I knew that he didn't want it to be too fashion. And so I had to sort of assimilate all of these things and try and find a sort of a tone and a language for it. Through weaving together, these Victorian ideas and shapes of the period with highly textured fabrics, bits of plastic, lots of things I was referencing from 20th century fashion. I was just kind of feeling my way through it.
What kind of reaction did you get the first time you showed a costume to Emma, the first time she laid eyes on it, and the first time she put it on? What kinds of reactions did she give you?
Well, she's a very gregarious, sort of quick-witted kind of a person, and she's very enthusiastic, actually. Very enthusiastic, lots of laughter, lots of joy, and very playful. I went to Athens to meet Emma in a hotel because it was during the pandemic. I couldn't easily see the actors for fittings and things, so I was only able to really see Emma before we started getting the actors, just before the shoot. And we met, and I took a dressing up box with me, just loads of things from the period to play with, plus like all sorts of shapes of knickers, bloomers, bits, all sorts of interesting underpinnings from the period. And we just had an afternoon of playing and dressing up, and that's where we came up with ideas of wearing the 1930s knickers, which are not at all true to period, with these huge jackets, because we're trying them on and playing, and she's very experimental and creative and imaginative, so she was fully embracing all of the ideas.
This is Bella. Bella, this is Mr. McCandles.
Hello, Bella.
How did you decide what to use when?
Okay. Yes, so in the beginning, and she's in the house, she's as you said, she's a child at that point. So the fabrics that I was looking for had a sort of childlike connotation, so I used seersucker, I used quilting, and Shona Heath and James Price, who did the production, that they were doing like quilted walls in her bedroom, and I was doing a big floppy quilted dressing gown, and she wore lots of sort of soft cosseting quilted sorts of things. And then when she leaves to go to Lisbon, it's almost as if she's had this wardrobe packed for her by Mrs. Prim, the housekeeper, and suddenly the things are more grown up. She goes off to Lisbon in a travelling costume, and the things are just kind of, she's left behind that wardrobe. She doesn't take any of it with her. So there's this brief period in the 1890s where in the history of dress there were these huge mutton sleeves, and it's just very appealing. It's just a period in fashion history that doesn't get touched upon very often in filmmaking, and I possibly, we later realised when we did it, Yorgos really wanted to commit to that. When we actually started filming these sleeves, they kind of block the camera angles a bit, so that's possibly why they're not done. But it's only a couple of years at the end of the 1890s when it was very fashionable to have these extended sleeves. I think for us it was about empowerment, that it's like a form of extreme power dressing, that you have your shoulders out here, and power, exaggerated shoulders are associated with the idealized male form. And when women have worn big shoulders in fashion history, it's been in the 1940s, in the 1980s, in the Elizabethan age. It just felt like a good idea to empower her with the shoulders. I think also they feel very creature-like. They make her feel strange, slightly other. And also there's a lightness to them which they're not stodgy.
When she goes through her affair with Duncan, and after that when she joins a brothel,
yes,
you come up with some other ideas that are pretty lurid.
So for the brothel, I didn't want it to look like, I didn't want the women to be corseted or to be wearing black or red or any of the things that we associated with kind of sex clothes. I wanted them to have we didn't have any corsets on the women, on any of the brothel women, and Bella's Bella doesn't ever wear a corset in the whole film. That was very much a decision that was coming from Yorgos from the beginning. It felt very important to him. So what we did was cut out the breasts. So we made these huge jackets, and some of them were floor length and some of them just stopped at the waist, and they cut out the breasts so that we saw, I mean, we don't see them in so much, but all of the women in the brothel had their breasts out and no corset, and all the colour palette is very of skin. It's to do with the colour palette of natural skin, I guess. It's less I quite like the softness of that colour palette. It's very beautiful, like a sort of celebration of skin rather than...
Bodies.
And bodies, yeah. I think so. There's a softness. It just seemed to be like a nice thing to do. Good idea. I don't know.
There's a celebration of skin in this movie.